Hey everybody, this is Dr. Doula, Andrea Little Mason. And I don't know, today is Sunday. It's a beautiful day, the second day of spring officially. And I'm out for a walk because, less than a month ago we were under snow here, a lot of snow here that wasn't going anywhere. So I just said, why don't I come out here and why don't I record? I'm outside my children's elementary school. I worked here over a decade ago while I was working on my doctorate. And it's relevant because I wanted to start my story. I think the way I'm going to approach my spiritual evolution, I've decided is to tell my story. I'm going to just tell my story and where I am. And okay, so I decided to put my ear butt in because I heard a howl of wind. I said, I wonder if it's picking up a lot of air. And I think it is. So I was right. So I said I was going to start telling my story. And the reason why I think it's important is because I think we all come to this journey in a different kind of way. And I think that sometimes we come from a frame of mind where it's like I'm denouncing everything I know. I'm at war with my family. I'm at war with people and whatever. And that's never been my intention. That's never been what I wanted to do. It's never been what I felt led to do. And I think I'll tell you why in this video. So I'm going to start. And it starts with me and my doctorate. And I'll just piece it together. I think people need to hear as many variations of people's stories as possible to understand that we are diverse people. So I grew up in the church. I started teaching Sunday school at age 12. My mother was a superintendent in Sunday school. My daddy was the head of the deacon board. And, I grew up of all the people I knew loving Jesus with my whole heart more than anybody else in the world. If I was not going to do something, if it was because, mama said don't do it, Jesus said don't do it. That's just kind of how I was. And that was how I've always been. I went through school, went through college. Don't have a whole, I have experiences, but as far as being one of those who went away from the church, that was not me. I really, really, really loved God with my whole heart, but I always knew that I saw God in a different way and that people didn't think of him the way that I thought of God. They were not thinking about God in the same way. I knew it. I knew it because of the way that I felt about what God was, how safe I felt. I didn't understand why people focused and talked about punishment so much. I prayed and asked Jesus in my heart at age 7 every night for like a month until my mom said, oh, once is good enough. I got baptized at 7 and I was serious. There was no, oh, she's doing this thing over here. That I was serious. And I've lived my life, being spiritually serious my entire life. As an adult, since my early 20s, I have been a worship leader. I have taught youth or, groups. I have prayed for people at the altar as an elder. I have led people before the throne of God. I have done all of those things and very much still identify with all of those things, knowing that at those particular times of my life, I was in the perfect will of God for me. And then comes, like I say, here's my kids' school. About a decade ago, I started with my doctoral studies. I had made a decision to study Black families, which meant that I was looking at our historical context in this country. I was really looking at it. And in doing so, because I had to do the doctoral work and add to the conversation, which is what doctoral work is, I had to add to the conversation, so I had to know what was really going on. I was looking at the Black family. I was looking at our relationships. I was looking at all those things. And somewhere along the line, I just started seeing things that just did not look like Christianity to me. But people were always justifying it. And I don't, to this day, I think I brushed out of my mind the justifications people gave. But it just became very apparent that if this is the same God that allowed all this pain for this long to my ancestors, something is wrong. Something is wrong. This is the same one that these slave masters were praying to. Something is wrong. It can't be the same. And I started considering and doing a thing that I was always told I did too much of, which was ask questions. I always wanted to ask the questions that nobody else wanted to. I remember asking my mom. My mom was like, I was that kid that had a why for everything, and she was telling me how God was bigger than everything, and God was, made everything and everything. And my question was, but mommy, who made God? And I still remember the frustration on her face when I asked, but mommy, who made God? And I learned from the frustration on her face and the frustration of others over the years that that's not the kind of question that you ask. So I stopped asking them out loud, but they were always in my mind. And in my mind, I made a deal that says, I will just do God the way I do God. So I would go and walk in the wilderness. And by that, there were places I could do that. But I'll say walk in the wooded areas. I would say walk around streams. I would find parks and places where I could be isolated. And I would talk to God the way it worked for me. And but from that doctoral work, it was some of the darkest times for me, because at the time I was still leading and doing, but I was beginning to ask the questions that allowed me to think and to say, no, this is not my truth. And that became challenging. So at first, it was just one of those things I just won't tell anybody. I'll just do whatever. And I did. I'll question it in my research. So I actually did my research referencing back scriptures that had to do with, the man and the woman being one. And I pulled things from different resources. And so I began to question more in my intellectual academic spaces. That was comfortable for me. I could do that. But over the years, over the past decade, as I became involved in birth and things like that, I noticed a shift and a change, and I found more of a foundation for what I was believing. And I understood more, and I started getting epiphanies and all these other things. But I'm going to stop right there, and I'll continue my story, because the doctoral work was where it started for me. It's not like I couldn't have researched, but I didn't have a reason to. But the doctoral work says you must ask all the questions. You don't just get to decide not to ask the questions. Ask the questions. See what the answers are. And if I could sum it all up, what I saw how basically people had created God in their own image, and that groups of people had decided that they would follow it in this way. I understood that, I understood where marriage rights and things come from. I understood, that they, how they spanned from Europe, and I understood all these things. But I won't go into that. I'm going to end it right here. And if you want to see what I came up with and what I discovered, you can go to, I think it's webuildlegacy.com. There's a opportunity to get a free ebook, What's Black Love Got to Do with It? And it talks about what my research saw, but it's free, it's friendly, it's reader friendly. But basically it was one of years meaning 5 and 6 years later, I began to express what I was seeing about Black people, Black and God, and what that meant. But I did it once again through my intellect and academia. I said I'll write it down, but I'm going to stop here with the doctoral work. The doctoral work was an open door for me to begin to question, and it gave me the liberty to question the thing that I had been told that I did too much of. To this day, the word overthink just does not work for me. Overthink, no. You can tell me that I overanalyze. I can believe that, but I won't be accused of thinking, because that's what people hope you don't do, is think. So I'm good with that. All right. I'll come back and talk more about what my doctoral work meant for me and stuff like that. And I hope you'll be here with me. Like, share, subscribe, tell somebody about it. I really hope that my experiences can help somebody so we can all get to our freedom. All right.